Welcome to the Engineering, Emotions, and Energy Podcast, where you can relax, recharge, and reconnect. And now, your host, Justin Wink.
Welcome to the show, everybody. So happy to have you. Got a really fantastic guest. His name's Abe. He's a big believer in taking action and believing that the world will find solutions for those who take action. He inspires action through his yoga workshops, classes, as well as in his coaching clients of Fortune 500 companies in real estate, life sciences, and medical devices. Abe received his MBA from UC Berkeley Haas School of Business. If you want to learn more about Abe, go to shakethecosmos.com. I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes. Super easy to find it because he's just phenomenal. I only met him like a couple weeks ago, and it's been like, known him for way longer. I don't know. It's just been amazing. He's nice enough to join us from you're traveling in Mexico, right, Abe?
That's right, Justin. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And I feel the same, it's like we met and it felt like we really connected. So I appreciate that. I do feel like I have a superpower where people meet me, and whether it's good or bad, the first impression is always there. So I think it comes from my dad, because whenever we would go to like restaurants, and I would be like, "Where's my dad?" And he would be going and talking with other people, and we would have to like find him. So I think I get some of those just first impression skills from my dad.
Oh, that ability to put people at ease and feel comfortable, and which is really cool, especially to someone like me that I will often have like a little bit more nervousness, when meeting someone new, of like, oh, how's this going to go? What are we going to talk about? What if I run out of things to say? I've gotten way better over the years as I get more comfortable with myself, but it's definitely a really cool skill. And it kind of brings to the topic that we're going to talk about, which is change, because just meeting someone new, like that's a change. Like you don't know how it's going to go. It can be more often, but for some people still coming out of COVID, like there's still some people that haven't gotten out and met new people face to face. But I think kind of for you and me, like we've been out and about and doing stuff because I like to travel. I know you like to travel, and you've had a lot of experience dealing with change through your adventures through the world. Like how's that helped with your like ability to handle change?
Totally. Yeah, I think, change is especially relevant now. And I feel like in some ways, the pandemic is over, but then it's in some ways where at least me, I'm going through healing, and it takes time to heal. For me, during I think it was like 2019. I started like a podcast, and then eventually in 2020, I had an opportunity to explore the world, and I took that on. And really, the change for me was there were many changes all at once. Number one change was going from having a paycheck every 2 weeks to now working on my own. The other thing being having a home that I paid rent or mortgage on, to literally not knowing where I will be living next week, or even which country I would be living next week. So I think those are two changes. And if I think about sort of the psychology behind it, what is the Maslow's hierarchy of triangle, I was pretty much like messing up with the whole triangle, which is the bottom is a shelter. You've got some love and friendship. Eventually, you've got some self-awareness at the very top. So, but I think those are some of the changes that I took on. Those are the couple ones that stand out to me.
Interesting that you bring up those hierarchy of needs in the context of change and sort of like living a different life than you kind of had been. I had a very similar journey in some ways, where a lot of things changed, and I think I kind of realized that like, oh, having this security thing hasn't actually brought me into the upper things that I thought like they represented security. But when I could lose my marriage, lose friends, and lose what I thought is my passion for life, which at that time was engineering. It's like, well, then what good is having this house and all this other stuff that's supposed to be quote unquote stable? And so I kind of got rid of it and did that nomadic life for about 6 or 7 months was all I could handle because it got tiring after a while. Like, oh man, I got to find a place next week, and I just got to come up with all these logistics but that taught me a lot about myself and what's important, and that I need way less than I thought. And it's almost in some ways it lets that bottom pillar or rung or whatever it is, that base strengthen. It's like the less external stuff that we need to make that our stability, then it makes it easier to focus on those higher things of what is it like, feeling valued and realization. It's been a while since I've studied that topic. But like, so after that, how has it been for you to go through different changes after sort of upending? And I mean, was it painful at the time, or was it almost just an adventure and just excitement?
Yeah. So I think, one of the things that I've worked hard on is just my own views of stability and how I think about it. With one thing that helped me was I attended a conference from Tony Robbins called Unleash the Power Within. And one of the things he does is works on your unlimited beliefs. And one of my limited beliefs was I need more stability. I need stability. Any place I moved to, I would buy a home, and the home indicated to me stability. And usually when you buy a home, you are going to live in it for 3 to 5 years. So that essentially plants you in one place. And the other, so that, with that activity, one of the things is you identify your limiting belief, and you keep it in your mind. And then he has you visualize sort of like a CD-ROM or a DVD. And then you put your limiting belief on that CD or DVD, and you scratch the shit out of it, just like scratch it. And you're just going to then come up with a new belief. And which was, for me, was, I don't even remember what it was before, but the new belief became, I have tons of stability in both tangibles and intangibles, and I can take a lot of risk, and I can also give back a lot. And just having this new sort of a mission statement or new belief meant, and forgetting about the old belief meant that, okay, now things can change. The journey started for preparing for these changes before. And just having that new belief about stability, that I am stable, I have lots of intangibles and tangibles. And just to break that apart more, when I say intangibles, I'm saying relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking support system, like just knowing you, Justin, it supports
Mm-hmm.
me. Or just knowing, our mutual friend Ryan, that supports, but that's just a powerful thing to know. And,
Yeah.
it's almost like a currency. The other thing is, of course, tangible, where, believing in the power of earning money and finances, just believing in yourself and that confidence. So that's there as well. So that's, I think, and then I started, for me, as I was saying, there are a couple of changes. One was going from having a paycheck to paycheck to just doing full-time entrepreneur. And the other change being literally changing every day where I will live. So essentially what happened then was I lived in 11 different countries, probably over 50 different cities, probably over 100 different places over the past 2.5 years. And
Wow.
the first time,
I mean,
so
that's a lot. Yeah.
it is a lot, right? So, and my therapist and I would talk about this because I would have these conversations essentially quarterly with my therapist. And I'm a big believer of therapy, in the sense, you should do therapy even if there's nothing wrong. It's just like, I think of it like going to the gym. My mind is going to the gym. And, we would process these changes. And I was not living a normal life, in the sense that many people live a life where, they would say, should I do A? Should I do B? Or should I do C? I started living a life where I said, I will do A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially living in a life where you don't choose, you just abundance. So I think in the beginning, the biggest thing was the money part. So that's number one. If sort of the top three sort of big emotional things I had to tackle was, well, I was trained for decades to just have this mindset of there's going to be a paycheck that's going to support me. So I'm sitting in French Polynesia, and I've actually, I sold everything that I had or donated most of the things. I literally just had 2 backpacks, and that's what I was on. And so that's just having that feeling. And then the second um, being just like the friends. Well, who will I know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I'm being challenged. I'm going to be in French Polynesia or Russia. Who do I know there? I'm just by myself, and I was doing this solo. So, I think for me at least, I felt like the world just opened its arms and accepted me, and that was just a big part of it. And I think if I can sometimes, like, I remember when I was going to South Korea, for example, I had to do a quarantine there for 2 weeks, and I didn't realize that I don't recommend quarantine. First of all, you really get to know yourself, and I was like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here 2 weeks? And what the lesson I learned from going to South Korea was sometimes you don't know why you're doing something, but the reason comes later. And a lot of time, some of these risk taking and these types of things require that sort of thinking. And fast forward, I was in South Korea, and I was living on an island called Jeju, and I was doing like podcasts, just like this type of format. And I went to the hostel owner one time, and I said, "Hey, I kind of need to record my podcast. Need a quiet place to do this." And
Yeah,
he's like,
which if
"You
if
could go
anyone's
down."
not done hostel living, staying before, there's usually like anything but quiet. With almost in 100-foot radius of the entire hostel, it's just like a noise zone. People snoring, having sex, like making noise, cleaning, music. So this might sound like a small ask, but this is actually probably a bigger ask than most people might anticipate if you've never been in a hostile environment before. So you're like, oh, I need quiet at the hostel. What and how did that go?
I said to, Dojong was his name, the owner, and he said, well, there's a startup accelerator place down the street. Why don't you go there? Maybe they have an office or something you can use for the day. And so I go over there, and they're having like this huge concert there, like literally not even like quiet. It's just like crazy loud there. So I'm like, okay, well, this is not going to work out. But I'm curious about this place now. So I go on their
Yeah.
website, and I see that they're having a startup business competition. And I'm like, okay, well, let me just put in my organization, Shake the Cosmos, and my podcast into this competition. So I wrote a quick business plan, submitted it on the website, and then came back to the hostel. And I said to the owner, hey, I didn't find the space I was looking for, but I did enter in the startup competition thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, well, good luck. And then, 2 weeks later, I get this phone call on my phone, and I'm like, why is my phone ringing in South Korea? Like, that was one weird thing. So, and then I pick up the phone and I answer it, and they say, hey, Abe, you've actually won out of 19,000 applicants this startup competition, and
Whoa.
we're gonna introduce you to 10 CEOs and like influencers in South Korea, and we're gonna give you some funding, but also take you to see places with all these people. And I was like, okay, well, this sounds great. So I, next fast forward, I'm at the orientation of the program, and the one of the organizers comes over and he says, well, how do you know Daoxing? And I'm like, oh, well, that was the hostel I was staying at. And and then he says, well, he's one of the partners at the firm. I was like, okay.
What?
So so I think just I give that as an example, as I took a risk and didn't really know why I was there, and at the same time ended up having just wonderful experiences I was the only American in the crew, but I think the universe kind of just accepts you and supports you. And I really believe, I think people are not afraid of what's going to happen wrong. It's more, they're more afraid of what if it really, everything that they dreamed of that's positive starts to happen. Can they handle that?
Yeah, there's so much good stuff in like what you just what you just said, I want to circle back to that, being afraid of how good it can be. But first, I kind of want to go to the point of, usually people are so worried about the losing what they have, and like that's usually one of the big fears of leaving a paycheck type situation. It's like, well, I've got this paycheck, like that's my minimum. They're like, if I don't have that, then I could have less than. But people don't actually see the flip side of that, is like, yeah, but your paycheck also limits your upside. Like me, the best year I ever had was like, oh, I got a 10% raise. Um, Whereas, if you're an entrepreneur, you can double your money and you could double it again the next year. You can double it the next. There really is almost no limit, and people forget that part. But I think sometimes that is scary. And I know with me building my business, my coaching clientele, sometimes there is like oh yeah, what if I did have like 20 clients that wanted to work with me and each wanted to pay me $5,000? Like, oh my gosh, what would I do with it? It is interesting. The good stuff sometimes is just as scary as the bad stuff. And have you found ways to work with that in your own life?
I resonate with everything you're saying, Justin, and it's so cool that we're talking about this. I think I agree with I mean, what I found helpful for me is I think two or three things that come to mind is, number one is just believing in the mindset of abundance. And what that means is I don't need to struggle. The things are here for me in this world. To give you an example, when I moved to San Francisco, I still only had two bags. So I needed a lot of things. I needed basic things, like we're talking like sheets, or wireless keyboard, or mouse, or monitor, or just to get set up and all these things. And then I literally joined a buy nothing group in my neighborhood. And I said, I need all these 14 things, 15 things, yoga mat, all this stuff. And boom, literally my neighborhood just came alive and they gave me literally everything. And the neighborhood I live in is pretty nice. So actually some of these things are more expensive things than I would have bought myself for. So, and some of them
Yeah.
are brand new. So
Yeah. But it didn't work for
so
them, or didn't want it anymore. And so it was like, hey, I don't need it. So practically trash to them and treasure to you. Feeling overwhelmed by the daily grind? Imagine if you could pause, reset, and truly connect with a calmer, more fulfilled you. It's not just a dream, it's absolutely possible. Hi, I'm Justin, and I invite you to discover the life-changing techniques in my book, Engineered to Love. Right now, I'm offering a free chapter complete with guided audios that have already helped so many people find peace amidst the chaos. These aren't just any techniques. They're transformative practices designed to help you love yourself and engage deeply with the present moment, without even having to close your eyes to the world around you. So join us at engineeredtolove.com/sample and access your free guided session. It's time to bust the busyness and embrace the joy, ease, and love in your everyday life. Don't wait. Start your journey to a more relaxed and recharged you today, because you deserve to live a life you love. Visit engineeredtolove.com/sample. See you there.
it's exactly right. It's practically trash to them. It's literally treasure to me. It got me set up and going within a week where I would have had to wait. So I think that intention of putting it out there and believing that the things are there or opportunities are there for me is one. And then the second thing is, there is this, I think of myself as an artist. And I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, you're trying to do something creative, trying to do something passionate. And, it takes time. It takes time to start a startup. And it takes time for that to really start to make money also and be profitable. So what ends up happening is people, at least for me, I was like, talking about the paycheck mindset, needing that. And I love your example of, well, you lose out on the large upside that could potentially happen. I would also add, the large upside is, this quality of life energy that changes when you're working on something that you're really just passionate about. You're just having fun and it's just making you happy. I mean, sure, it's not giving you another $10 to talk for another 5 minutes or 45 minutes working on your amazing idea. It's
Yeah,
the
it's lighting you
happiness
up. It's energizing. Yeah.
it's energizing. And literally that's all we technically have. in the end. Like everybody has this quality and quantity of life energy. So I think one of the things that I learned over time is to sort of I'm very mindful of money. I'm very smart about money. At the same time, also realizing that, and this the book that helped me was called The Artist's Way. Realizing that as an artist, as an entrepreneur, there will be times when you will make a lot of money. There will be time when you make no money. There will be time when you will have consistent income, and there will be time when you have inconsistent income. And just sort of believing that and accepting that, and then also understanding that you will produce products and no one will pay you. You
Mm-hmm.
will produce products and people will pay you so much beyond your expectations. So
Yeah.
just like these types of things and being just comfortable with that. And I think maybe the second change that I was dealing with, which was changing the geography so much, living a lifestyle where the change was the normal,
Mm-hmm.
made me kind of just accept these other monetary things and other types of things better as well. So I look at it as like just a holistic thing, and I think that was helpful as well.
Yeah, there's so much great stuff. Like one of the really things that I think you circled back to was that, in the ups and downs of entrepreneurship or artistry, is that the external flow of money could be a little bit all over the place, but as long as you have that internal stability that like, oh, I know I'm going to be okay, that it's the financial abundance, whatever is it's just a matter of time. Like it's almost like a given, but that comes from within and not needing that external validation every single 2 weeks or however often most people are used to getting paid. So I find that like really amazing, circling back to that. And then also going to that some people aren't going to pay anything for what, and some people are going to pay ridiculous amounts. It's all about it's that waiting to find your audience or knowing that your audience is coming, because not everybody's going to get your vision or what you're doing. And I've definitely been experiencing that with doing it. Like, some like my best friends, family, they're like, I don't get what you're doing. I don't think I like the way you do this thing. Yet for the right people that end up working with me, they just go like, oh yeah, this is great. Oh, I'm with you, whatever. I don't know what the hell we just did, but it was magic and I love it. And yeah, I want to work with you more. And just trying to remind myself that, okay, I need to focus my energy on those people that are my audience. And then those other people, it's like, okay, that's just not for me. Like I can't stand most jazz, but that doesn't mean I don't think people should stop making jazz. I'm just not, gonna buy tickets to go see a jazz concert. But I'm totally okay with other people going to jazz. It's just not my music, man. Just not my thing. Give me something I can, with a beat I can dance to and some rhythm. I'm a happy guy. Um, yeah. So I think those are some really, really cool points on how to like sort
I
of
I,
ride the
to-
ride.
I totally get it, and with that too. I mean, with this idea of having the support, and I think the new ideas, especially, and they're kind of like seeds. You don't. They kind of just need to be nurtured,
Mm,
and they can be nurtured more privately, like you're coaching some folks and you're kind of nurturing them, and that's amazing stuff to have people to have access to some service like that. And I think just that is huge. So I mean, because remember I said, one of the things was like, well, I was worried about, will there be support systems in the new places I would go, and there were many, like for example, that I gave the startup accelerator example, but there were many other stories where I was sitting in another hostel, and then this woman approaches me and she's like, well, what's your plan for today? And I said, well, I don't really have a plan. It's like 10 in the morning. I'm just reading my book. And she said, okay, well, what do you like to do? And I'm on this island, and she's like, well, I'm like, well, I like waterfalls and I like hiking and nature. And then she's like, okay, well, hold on. And then she picks up her phone, calls her husband, and then her husband comes down, and they're like, okay, you're gonna get in the backseat of our car. We're gonna show you around. We're gonna show you around. And next thing you know, I'm in the backseat of their car, and they're literally taking me around this island. It's very useful because having a car kind of helps with the transportation. And they take me to see the waterfalls. They treat me to a nice street food lunch. They won't let me pay for anything. And then also they eventually take me to see wild horses, and then eventually treat me to one of the nicest dinners on the island. And
Wow.
I think, and all this time they won't let me pay for anything. They're explaining everything. They're even taking photos of me like I'm a model. And then eventually they come home. They drop me off 2 hours. They drive 2 hours south to at the hostel to drop me off, and they say, "Okay, 감사합니다, thank you, namaste, have a good day." And that was it. And they said, "We enjoyed your company, friendship," and that was it. So I think, you know, again, I took risks in the sense I didn't know there were going to be support system. I didn't know there were going to be people supportive of my ideas or things. But I think when you do that, there is this energy or there's this vibration that's put out, and people come to you literally, physically,
Oh yeah.
and
Well, because there's from like our usual Western way, like this, you started your story with you were sitting somewhere and you had no plan for the day, which is like almost that's a sin, right? Like, what do you mean you have to have you have to be busy and have all these things, and but when you're just open, then the world can come to you and go, hey, I know what you really want. And I got some great stuff that you couldn't even imagine. Which is effectively what happened to you. Like you couldn't probably have you dreamt up like a day like that. There's no way, because I was just everything was perfect. The other thing I love about traveling is sometimes other cultures, like they won't take no for an answer. You are forced to receive, like, from other people, like the meals, the rides, and people are like, no, I don't want anything. Just your presence is my present. They other countries can see us so much more clearly than we can see ourselves in some ways. It's so beautiful.
totally. I think there's culture differences, and the way people value things are different, like things like family, things like closeness, personal space, business. And I think maybe having the travel experiences and changing also helped me adapt. And I would say I've become more bold and person with more courage after having done more travels. And I think that helps as well as whether I'm thinking about something and also maybe supporting someone else. It works both ways, maybe supporting myself, supporting others. Um, I'm more aware, I think. And of course, I'm a Kundalini yoga person as well. So, which means it's a yoga awareness, which I think kind of just accelerates the whole process. So, because of my practice.
Yeah, it is always great to have like these practices that can sort of accelerate, or when it feels like, because sometimes the universe isn't always giving us what we think it is we need or want, although usually in some ways as we get perspective or distance we realize like, oh yeah, I needed that shitty situation to learn this lesson or do this thing. But yeah, sometimes it's good to have like these practices that can kind of get us through these like challenging, what seem like challenging times, but actually could be part of our biggest growth and biggest vector for
Totally.
for change. And I'd be curious for you, as you've probably deepened your practices and had these experiences, do you feel like you get knocked off your equilibrium as much or as long as maybe in the past, or I don't know, maybe you've mostly always been a pretty chill, calm guy? Yeah,
Yeah.
Abe is just like a guy that's just like super at peace. You're probably feeling it just through the audio. And I get told often from other people that like I seem like a really chill, calm dude, and it's like I am mostly, but definitely in the past, like very little of that. And even today, this morning, I got knocked off. Like somebody gave me some news, and I was like, oh, that fucking hurts. Like, oh, I'm angry, I'm sad, and I had to have like a 15-minute cry. And but I know I'll pretty much be over it after today, whereas I would have been in that funk probably for years, in my early 20s.
Oh man. Well, I'm a human being for sure. Like I get knocked off, I get angry. For me, different emotions have been struggle over the years, and I feel the one particular emotion that I suppressed quite a bit and didn't express at all was anger. And I think over time I've learned that anger is my best friend, and in the sense that there are things that piss people off. There are things
Mm-hmm.
that don't go as planned. There are failures in life. And if I think about sort of the inner artist, so the way I think about myself is I'm a grown adult, but there's a part of me that is still a younger me, which is the artist. And what
Mm.
happens is the society, the programming, at least in my opinion, grows the adult part of us. We become this like shield and blah, strong and blah, blah. But
Yeah.
there is this part of us that's just like, oh my God, what is this? Like what? Like it's literally a child
Yeah.
and it
Wants to
wants
know
to be
everything, wants to create, wants to play, wants to get into stuff, and
once again. So
wants to
and I have
feel.
been nurturing. Yeah, exactly. Wants to feel, and I've been nurturing that. And it's been wonderful to like today I'm out for a walk by the ocean or just taking myself on artist dates, taking my inner child on dates where I would just go to I don't know, buy my favorite candy or just simple things, just nurturing that has been very very important. So with anger, I feel that if something does knocks me off and makes me angry, I think for me, I used to be in a place where I would just be like, okay, just put it under the carpet, don't express it. And
Mm.
then now I'm in a place where I dig deeper into that feeling. And this can be done with any feeling, but anger, I think, is in the society is kind of looked at as this negative thing. But the inner child is like, I don't know. I hear babies crying all the time, but there's a reason. They're just like very expressive,
Oh yeah.
and so I think it's a powerful tool because the anger tells you right away where do you need to go. So, for example, let's say you're meeting a friend and it's the third time and they're always late. They're always like 30 minutes late and you're just sitting there waiting for them
Mm-hmm.
and you really get angry and then you think about it. Okay, you're like, you know, I really value my time
Mm-hmm.
and my anger is telling me hang out with people who value my time. And this would be an example of something where maybe it could lead to a change in the relationship or a communication openness. So I think, but at the same time, that's so for me that's been powerful. Just digging deeper, tools that I would use to kind of process some of that would be journaling, those types of things that help me also.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really important distinction, which is that the feeling is good information, and then it's how to be sort of like discerning and skillful in expressing it or utilizing it. Because rightly so, probably the reason why a lot of people have negative things about anger is because many people, when they get angry, they just go out and they lash out at anyone and everyone with their most hurtful of tools. I know that had been my experience of anger, from my father. And then I even in myself, like when I would get to a point of anger, it's like it would come out in unproductive ways. And yeah, and it's sort of like learning to go like, okay, I'm angry. What does that mean? And it's usually like, oh, that means I need something or I want something to be different. Going more inward to go, okay, well, yeah, what do I need? Like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be hanging out with this person if they are always late and maybe they're just not my type of person, or I need to just change my expectations or something like that. But I don't necessarily have to like yell at them and go like, oh, you suck because you show up late, you're the worst person. Like probably not going to
Yeah.
help anything. Yeah.
I mean, and anger is just an example. A lot of entrepreneurs also uh, will run into jealousy.
Mm.
Like, oh, I'm doing my own thing, like, but this person's doing their own thing, and they seem to be like, wow, like they have
Yeah, why is Tony Robbins
51,000 or
making
five
so much
million.
money? He sucks. Like
Exactly.
yeah.
So, but that's a great example of like, and again, going inward and saying, well, first of all, I'm playing a different game.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Tony Robbins has been doing it for what I think 45 years.
Yep.
So someone like me or someone else who's just getting started, the thing to do is not compare yourself to Tony Robbins, but play that game. If you're in the junior league, play with the junior league people. If you're in the NBA, play with them. So that's just the one mindset. And the other
Yeah.
thing is, sure, if something's making you jealous, all that's saying is you need to work on your work harder. Like, it just means like, if someone's getting published, someone's writing a book, and you're getting jealous of it, what that means is, well, I think it's time to take your own art seriously, which means
Yeah.
go write that book, go paint that painting, go give that speech, go send that email.
Yeah. And something that came to me when you kind of brought up the idea of like comparing to other people is because usually we just want to compare on like one vector of like, well, they're making a lot of money, I'm not making as much. But I feel like if you want to go that way, compare full life to full life and go like, well, how much time are they spending? Like, what are they feeling? What are their clients like? Or what are their relationships like? And then like, wait, do you really want that one area? But keep in mind, it's like then you have to have all the other stuff, and it's like because I kind of had issues like that with my sister growing up a lot, where like my parents would spend like way more money on her and things like that, and I was like, oh, why? How come she gets all the money and the attention? And like, I know I'm way happier. I'm like really loving my life. And, I love her. She has her challenges, but I'm like, for all that money and attention from my parents, I would not want those challenges. And so it's like, that helped me get over that jealousy of like, you know what, I'm very happy for what I got and where I'm at and where I can go from here. And I don't need to be like that other person. I'm happy they're who they are and I'm happy who I am. And, yeah, and I can do my work in my way to get what I want in the way I want to do it. Because I think that ends up being the important thing is like, yeah, how do you want to get there? Because there's no end. Like there's no, okay, Abe, you made enough money, now you're happy, or you had enough friends, now you're happy. It's like we continue to grow, evolve, and want to. So if we can't enjoy the journey, that's kind of, I don't know. Is there anything else than that?
Oh, I mean, that's gold right there, Justin. I feel it's so true, right? Like I feel like we set these, at least we'd set these goals and we'd be like, oh, 5 years later, I want to have my business do XYZ things. And then 5 years later, business has done those things. And then you're like, wait, what? Now what? So
Mhm.
I do feel like there is this, and I think I wonder, I don't really have an answer for it either. It's kind of a fun thing to think about, right? Like it feels like a human need for many successful people to set goals, try to achieve them, and then boom, there isn't sort of, then you need new goals and you keep going. And I think why I said, I think you said gold, I think it's the journey.
Mhm.
It's this journey of, um, and for me, if I think about it, I think it's a journey of identity where an identity is shaped over time, over countries, over places, over people, over experiences, over stories. And I think, at least I think I can have several identities. Like, so I think that acceptance is important in this journey. So when that goal is accomplished after 3 to 4 years, like you've kicked butt, you've launched books and you've made your money or had those relationships or whatever it
Mhm.
was, identity has also morphed.
Yeah.
And it's normal to have now just kind of like that introspection is important. Like just maybe taking time to just see and learn and what's really powerful. And for example, I've done many career pivots in my career,
Mhm.
and I think that that's a journey by itself. But I think it's fueled by the fact that my identity can be morphed, my identity can be changing, and I think you're spot on with the journey piece, and I think that's gold.
And along the lines of the journey continuing, you're about to start kind of like a new chapter or a new book. You're going back to the paycheck world, and I think next week. And I'm curious to hear your take, but I'm guessing you're not going to be operating the same way you operated, was it 5 years ago when you were doing I'm sure you're going to be appreciating, but you're probably not going to be afraid of losing that. And so you're probably going to be the most productive, joyful person to work with, I guess, compared to the rest of the people that are like, there's just something about someone who's afraid to get fired is just that not fun to work with. I know from experience where it's just like, this person just does not want to get fired. They're not here to create anything or bring joy or whatever. They just don't want to get kicked out. So I'm just I want to kind of like end on, what are your thoughts of how you're going into this new transition? And
thanks for asking about that. I think, I'm still, I was traveling for the past 2.5 years. And then in June of this year, 2022, I, came back to the US. And to give you perspective, I didn't have a rental or a home to come back to. But apparently I had 13 different offers of people who said, come live with me. And so
you were just houseless. You were not homeless.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I like that. Houseless, but not homeless.
That's how I considered myself when I was nomadic. I'm like, no, I'm just houseless, but I'm wherever I go is my home. Like, and had little rituals to make wherever I was a home. Yeah.
Exactly. Rituals, like getting things, the small things that are important to you. So I lived with friends and family. And then eventually I decided to settle in San Francisco as I wanted to go deeper into real estate and development and really also have a strong network of UC Berkeley. It's kind of like if you throw a rock here, you'll probably hit a UC Berkeley real estate person. So that to me was creating, back into that support system. And because, part of me needed that hug, needed that. I've been away from this lifestyle. And I still remember like one of my mentors took me out to dinner. He invited me over and we were eating dinner. He's making me dinner in Oakland Hills on his balcony, looking over the lake. It's a beautiful place. And he's just being very upfront with me. He's letting me know, he's like, hey man, you've been traveling. You kind of need to change your whole getup. Like you need to cut your hair. You gotta like do XYZ things so people will take you seriously and those types of things. And I done that as well. And so eventually that was there was like literally a physical transition that took place, that had to take place. And eventually as I interviewed and you're so right. And I think my superpowers have been amplified. Even the interviews that like the jobs that I didn't get, people are like, we would love to just get coffee with you, man. Like we would just love to can we just like stay connected? And I'm not kidding.
I believe it was almost someone was like, on paper, I can't justify hiring you, but I would just love to have you.
Just like, yeah, can you just come by the office from time to time? So I think, so what I mean is, and over time, where I'm going to be doing is it uses a lot of my skill sets in negotiation, relationship development, and my passion for real estate. So eventually the market accepted me and I found what I was looking for after the journey as well. So I think, and it took a lot of work as well. And I think the mental transition was part of it. Physical transition was part of it. But again, I found the right people. While I was looking for a job, I found a mentor who lived literally like a few blocks away from me. And he just accepted me in his life in a way. He's like, okay, I know you're looking for a job, but I have this CEO of this company who's looking for someone to help them, reposition these senior living assets essentially. And then I started working on that part-time. And then also there was a land development opportunity. So he got me involved in these things part-time. So just so I can have these experiences under my belt while I was looking for a job and I'm getting paid. So I think, just getting me warmed up. And I think from his perspective, he's trying to make sure I feel supported and productive and all these things. Eventually it worked out was I had my podcast and I interviewed many CEOs and one of them referred me for the role that I'm going to be doing. So it's eventually, it's really the network in a full circle.
Yeah. You never know how someone can help you or how you can help them. It's so that don't always have like the end point in mind that like, oh, if this person doesn't give me this thing, then that was a waste of time. It's never a waste of time because you don't know 14 steps down how things are going to play out, either for your benefit, their benefit, the world's benefit. That's just a really cool story to illustrate how awesome the universe works. And I don't know, people listening might be going like, okay, well, maybe some of the stuff works for these guys. They just seem to be touched by magic or whatever. And like, I feel like anything that you've experienced or I've experienced, anybody can kind of have this stuff. They don't have to do it the exact same way we did, but I mean, that's one of the things I like to do is teach people like how you can have like a great, easeful, joyful, loving life as well. So that's why I encourage people to keep listening, follow the podcast, reach out to me and things like that. And I'm guessing that's what a lot of the work you do too, is to show people like, yeah, you can do this. This is doable. It's not magic. It's not because we're special. It's, we're unique, but we're not special.
Yeah, totally. And I think, I agree. It's not magic. There's definitely some luck, and I think, but there's a lot of hard work. I think people in our circles have done. Like for me, at least, like even the transition. I think the transition, like one of the things, the psychology was um, around money,
Mm-hmm.
and money being a thing where I feel like we live in a capitalistic society in America, and it's very wonderful where you can make a lot of money. But the other thing is, people, at least I cringed for some reason in my heart. I felt bad to make a lot of money. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, why am I feeling bad? Then I kind of understood the culture better, where I was like, I think I live in a society where it's really cool to make money. But then when you make a lot of money, you also start to feel bad, or people start to judge you, or we feel judgmental. So I had to get over that hump.
Oh
So I
yeah.
feel like, just being okay with that, having more money than you need. And again, that took me time to get to that stage. And that for me was my journey also. And I think that could be limiting for people who want to do really well financially, and where if they have this thing of there is money, but then I feel cringy if I make too much of it. There is no there is so don't I would say don't feel that way. The other thing is I write letters to myself, to in the sense I will say, and it's great getting a letter to yourself. You're being your own cheerleader. So I wrote myself a
Do you
letter
do you do you
saying,
answer? Do you respond back, or do you like ghost yourself? Like, oh my gosh, another letter
"Man,
from Abe. Oh my gosh. So
I respond to with another letter."
okay. So you've got quite the
But
romance back and forth.
it's a self love romance, and I think just having that letter come by and it says, "Hi Abe, you're an amazing real estate developer. You're doing such a wonderful job." And it's a full page letter of me just saying what I want, and I'm
Mhm.
doing it. And I think that reading it, and I frame it, and it's sitting on my office desk. So it's just like it's there. You see it every day, and I believe in that, where you look at something and read it something every day. It usually just happens.
Well, because I don't know, I'm more and more a believer that our external environment is a reflection of our internal environment, and as we repeat or reread or re-experience something that we want to be part of our external reality, our internal state doesn't know the difference. It eventually goes, well, this is just being repeated. It must be true, and then it must be true, and it starts to show up in our external world. And a lot of people go like, well, no, it's the external stuff, and it just, well, how's that been working out for you? I'll ask that. So try it out. I'm a big believer in science, but I'm also a big believer that we can sort of dictate where we want to like land in some of these statistical things. Like you said, like there's luck, but in some ways we can sort of make our own luck. It's like, yes, a flip of a coin is supposed to be 50-50, but if you put your intention that it's going to be heads and it ends up you get 51% heads, that's huge. That's huge. So why not know the statistics and know that you can maybe tilt the scales in our favor by doing these practices and other exercises. Like I'm gonna encourage people to probably like re-listen to this, because Abe drops so many like cool, amazing tricks and techniques and whatever. They're just peppered in, like, you know, the letter to yourself thing. And there's just been so many things that, yeah, we could probably do like a show on each of these things. But yeah, any last words before we get going?
Thanks so much. Yeah, and I think the last word I would say is just this quick story. I was literally just walking by the ocean earlier, and I noticed a lot of shells, you know, just on the ocean, on the beach. And there were some that I found beautiful. There were some that I did not. And so the ones that were beautiful or that attracted to me, I picked them up, and then I left a few. So I think life is like that too. Life is full of opportunities, and we get to choose which shell we're going to pick, which opportunity we're going to take. And I think just having that perspective is important. And I think that's really it. Thanks so much, and for the opportunity to chat. And it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And I think I'll just connect it with our theme that, yeah, life is choice. And we sometimes, whether we're conscious or more likely not conscious of us, even when there's change, we can kind of choose how we go through that change. Like there's no must. We really can choose, you know, how much, how quickly, how tough, how easy. Yeah, it's really, we're at a buffet of options, and we get to choose. And yeah, and if you're like, no, but I got to keep eating the hot dog, it's like, well, there's a whole buffet. There's crab, there's dessert. You can skip to dessert. It's okay. Yeah, you don't have to just keep eating the hot dog. I don't know why I picked the hot dog. I mean, it's from watching that show Silicon Valley with the hot dog, not hot dog guy. But yeah, thanks. Want to thank Abe. I'm very excited that get to have you on the show, and you know that we've met in person. Looking forward to seeing you more and more, because we live just like 20 minutes away from each other. So I'm gonna have him down here to Pacifica on the beach, and we'll have some fun. And if you want to connect with Abe, go to shakethecosmos.com. So check the show notes for that link. Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks all of you for listening. And yeah, good day. If you want to contact the show, email me at podcast@justinwink.com. That's Justin, WENCK. And find me on social media, Justin Wink, Ph.D. on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you want ways so that you can relax, recharge, and reconnect, find the Tuesday 20 every Tuesday at 12:05 p.m. Pacific. It's only 20 minutes, and it's going to get you relaxed, recharged, and reconnected. It's on YouTube, and it's on Facebook. So looking forward to seeing you there.